I'm Alex Muller. I work for Mindful Materials, and we're really excited to be a part of this conversation around lighting advocacy. We've been really excited to see all the work that's been done by your speakers today, who are going to be sharing case studies of their work to drive more transparency and sustainability in lighting. So a couple little housekeeping things. We just have the chat today. So if you do have any questions as you go along or any technical things, myself and Margie McNally will be monitoring the chat and looking out for those. In addition, we will have kind of a breakout session later and the opportunity to talk then. We'll be capturing some things in the chat. So to move quickly along, I wanted to introduce our speakers for today's conversation, who were all part of a conversation 6 months ago. And I think Melissa will be telling you more about that, where we kind of started to dive into what is the Lighting Advocacy Letter, what are we trying to drive here? And today we are reconvening for some people to get started, for some people to start sharing what they've been working on, and really move the conversation forward and provide that support and education. So speaking today are going to be Melissa Mattis at Sladen Feinstein. Hi, Melissa. Alexandra Godosky from HMFH. And we also have Reiko Kagawa from Sladen Feinstein. There we are. And then, like I said, Margie is also on here. So I will pass it over to Melissa, I believe, to get started.
Now unmute.
Classic. Yeah. All right, well, want to do a quick recap of the last time that we were together in March, when we had a webinar several months ago. So we want to quickly go over the toolkit that we launched with you guys. We're going to do some small breakout rooms for introductions, and then we'll move into our case studies that we'll look at today from a couple of the firms. And then we have the majority of our time saved for group shares as well to hear about what you guys have been working on along the way. And we'll wrap up with some next steps. So our event, so the Lighting Advocacy Letter launched in July of 2021. And in March of this year, we launched our toolkit. So we got together, there were over 100 participants on the call in March where we launched the toolkit and went through with everybody the tools that have been made available to help implement the commitment of the Lighting Advocacy Letter. So we just want to quickly remind everyone of those tools that are available. So if you haven't already signed or aren't familiar with the Lighting Advocacy Letter, it's found on mindfulmaterials.com. And it's a common ask of the lighting design community to lighting manufacturers for greater transparency and information into the human, climate, and social impacts of the products that we're specifying. And you can see that this list isn't even up to date. We've had over 70 firms sign to date. So if you haven't already, I would encourage you to read through the letter and sign if that aligns with your values. On the same website, you'll find a PDF link to download the toolkit, and there's also an accompanying webinar of a recording of the March webinar where we walk through the toolkit in detail. But just as a reminder, there's things in here like the conversation tree to help guide the conversation with your clients. So whether they have an ESG agenda or are looking for talent retention or just have a laser focus on the bottom line, this conversation tree will help you pull out talking points from your firm's values and their values to find that common point of connection. There's also language that you can copy and paste straight into your schematic design narrative. There are questions that you can ask at your tabletop presentations when your reps are in your office or on calls. There's suggested goals for projects based on project size for the number of fixtures that you can target to have a label for material transparency. And there's also a lot of information about search engine tools that are available online, such as Light AZ that has the ability to search by declare label or row house. There's also Ecomedes, or of course the declare database. And even from the wrapper manufacturer side, there's filters available in SpecSeek. We also have language shown on how you can capture this information on your lighting schedule, whether your fixture already has a declare HBD label, or if the manufacturer has made a commitment to obtain a label with award of the project, and also a note that you can include in your schedule. And of course, a bunch of additional resources to guide you along the way as well. Okay, so we are going to break out into groups of 5 or so. And we just want to quickly introduce ourselves, say where we're from, our company, where we're located. And then I want you to pick a number 1 through 4. 1 means you have not signed the letter. 2 means you've signed but haven't practiced it yet. 3 is you're testing this on a project or 2, and 4 is that this is turning into a new office standard. So Alex is going to put us in breakout rooms. And then if you have any extra time, you can also share about how you heard about the Lighting Advocacy Letter or this webinar. So we will see each other in the breakout rooms in a minute.
Hi, Shelley and Brittany. Let me know if you have questions about how to join the breakout rooms. Hey, Chris and Scott, we're just in breakout rooms. Everyone is introducing themselves. So I'm just gonna put you into those rooms. You can join.
Are we back in the main room or do we still in the,
We are back.
okay.
It's like teleporting. We're back. I think there's some people are just wrapping up, but they'll be transported back in about 1 second.
Cool. You guys can see my screen again?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Alex, let me know when everyone's back.
Everyone should be back now.
Cool. All right, if you guys, Alex, can you drop in the chat? I don't know if it worked when I put it in, the scale, because we want to have everyone, we want to get a sense of the group. If everyone can put their number in the chat that they just said, or that they shared in the small groups, we can get a sense of the group as a whole.
Awesome. I love the range. It's
Oh, yeah, it's nice.
really great to see. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, keep going. And if you feel like it could put their number in there, that would be awesome, because we're hoping to get a sense of the group as a whole.
So we'll go ahead and move into our case studies portion here. We want to share a few lessons learned with you guys that from our implementation of this commitment over the last couple months. So we will start with, I think, breakouts first.
Sure. So case study is actually going to be great. And then I have to be very vulnerable of like what I tried and then what it didn't work. So we'll conclude it with the lesson learned. But so case study number one is the project type was lab and office tenant fit out. And size of the project was 150,000 square feet of the space. So our goal was to provide, we were going easy, we were starting easy, one fixture to have a declare label for the large quantity fixture. So in this case, it was the lab project. So we chose the lab fixture that's going to go into like a bench lab. So when we were specifying it, we were very specific about our light fixture specification, because the beam angle and also the wattage, the lumen per watt, and then all that was very important to us to drive the energy low, and also providing the lights where we need it, which is, what we do for every day. So I couldn't, that is a really important piece to meet. So even though the very ordinarily looking 3-inch wide slot fixture actually had a very specific specification built into it. And then we talked into every one of the manufacturers as we listed 2 other equal pieces for the competitive price, but they all agreed to have the material transparency label. So, which was nice that, so out of 3 manufacturers, one manufacturer already had the declare label, and 2 others didn't. So we were providing, as you can see, some of them to have a material transparency as part of the specification name. And in Prudential, you guys know, they already had the fixture with the declare label. So that's kind of like counterparts to like get other people to feel pressured that they have to provide it. So we got all of them to agree that they can provide the declare label. And if you go to the next page, the biggest lesson learned was, so we ended up going to one of the manufacturers that was did not have the declare label in the previously. So they had the labeling process actually took so much longer than they anticipated. So it really came back to us as a lead time issue that once the contractor released the order, the lead time bumped up from whatever the weeks that we had from the manufacturer, like almost double the size. And then like, whoa, no, we can't tolerate that. So we have to really go backwards and then see like what was holding the order, and then like assuring that they're already working on it, so we can please ship the products. We can't have the products coming late, but keep working on that label. So like we have to do a little bit of kind of like a backwards legwork to have the lighting products to have the declare label ready. So I think it was lesson learned, but I think the biggest achievement was that exercise of having someone who had never done declare label to actually go through the process was a big win for us, that like someone now know how to do it, and then from the second project on, it's going to be easy for them. So and that portion was a really big win, but I learned it in a little bit in a painful way. Next. So then case study 2, it's also large scale lab and office tenant fit out. It was really large, like 450,000 square feet of the tenant fit out size. So we got very high interest from lighting manufacturers that yes, we can provide declare label or disclosure of the material ingredients for the main fixture that we're thinking to use for the office space. Because the office space is just about the half of that size. So you could think of like how large that quantity was. So what was really nice is because of the like a very large volume, the manufacturer was like, they were able to also provide not just a verbal commitment or email commitment, being able to list the declare label as a pending process or declare label as promised piece onto their cut sheet, which is really nice that we can always go back and then point out not just like our schedule pointing out, but also like fixture cuts is also clearly stating it. So, which was very nice piece. I'll go to the next page. The biggest lesson learned was, and they were saying that, so the fixture that we actually, we're still working it out, but I didn't realize that there would be a much of difference when we would choose RL color as a finish color. What's gonna be the result to the declare label, or especially if you were to be using the declare red list approved. So the manufacturer not always, but manufacturer often use third party to do the painting, and then that painting products to have another information to be disclosed. That I did not realize that also takes up another level of work to get into it. So that's another lesson learned. But so if you do stick with their standard offering, like manufacturers standard offering, that's what they already file the case. So that's something lesson learned. Next.
Thank you. Let's see.
One more. Oh no, actually a couple more. So case study 3. We were actually, this is also ongoing project, large size multifamily project that had multiple buildings, and then with the total, by the time when we total all unit counts, it'll go about maybe approximately 800 units. So it was very large quantity of the downlights to be expected for the units. So as you all know, the multifamily is one of the project type that really suffers the price constraint. And so did we have the big budget constraint too. So at the very early stage of the design, we went through what's the spec exactly to be. We wanted to include the dim to warm for the units, high CRI for the units, and all that like listed out with the price. So we had pretty extensive downlights comparison exercise within the office. We had many samples, and also the price tag with it, and who can provide declare label and all that. So by the time when we got to the few equals that we listed on the project, on the schedule, we were also clear with the developer that those are how much those fixtures cost, and then we could, while they are providing the declare label. So we could really get signed off from the clients the developer's point of view that, okay, that's meeting the budget and also doing the really good work that they can be proud of at the end of the project, and then they can advertise too. So that really how we got them to sign on the like downlight, all downlights in the unit to have the declare label. And go next. Yeah, so the lesson learned was even though while we were finding the equal manufacturer to list, we had very hard time finding the manufacturer who could actually agree on the declare label or material disclosure, because as we all know that the multifamily project would tend to use the low cost products, and then that means that the manufacturers tend to provide very large quantity, and then they use multiple supplier to provide their components. And for that, it's really hard for them to commit that they will always have the material ingredients to be disclosed to them. So that became a little bit more difficult piece, like who can actually commit their supply chain, and also like supply chain to provide those information for them. So I think having that conversation earlier and who can do the commitment is, again, that was the key. Case study 4. So this one, I'm gonna just very briefly touch on this. So one of the way that we started to include declare label is for this project was core and shell project for the large building, but we're using it for the back of house fit products type because we were working on the core and shell portion, but being able to sell the idea that we can also use this permanently installed lighting products to be part of the material transparency credit or the feature in the certification. And then I believe LEED has something similar to that. So working with LEED and the WELL consultant, and then we are providing XYZ fixtures for this, XYZ amount, then they can actually count that piece towards their, I think it's a 25 installed fixture product amongst the building that they have to have in order to file this credit. And then we can be part of this credit, and then we can really start defending that, okay, we are using our light fixtures to be part of the material transparency credit. So let's stick with that idea. So that's how we were selling that, the idea to the clients. The lesson learned for that portion is because it's more back of house products, we always have to have equal products, otherwise it gets VE'd. So finding the equal products that also have declare was still quite tricky sometimes. So that became a little bit of like extra homework that we had to do, but that's one way that we can also sell this. So and expand the idea to the design team members.
Thanks, Rico. Okay, case study 5. So this is another multifamily project, 450 units. And our internal target for this project was to target the top 2 quantity fixture types, which happen to be downlight and under cabinet. And our downlight had a declare label, so that was great. And our under cabinet, we could not find one that had a label. And so we went to our preferred manufacturer and asked if they would be willing to do this, and they weren't interested. And I tried my best to persuade them, and it didn't go well. And that's when I engaged my rep, and it was a conversation between my rep, myself, and the manufacturer that really was able to, we together, the 3 of us were able to convince them to go for the label. So in this case, the lesson learned really was that just the key of having the rep involved to be a part of the conversation, that they have their own influence and their own specification power. And so when we can partner together like that, we can have a lot stronger influence in that way. And case study 6 is another multifamily, 357 units. So for this one, we also were targeting top 2 quantity fixtures. And in this particular case, we proactively brought up the conversation from the very beginning at the project kickoff. However, as the project went along, VE became a very heavy exercise, and what I feel like we could have done better, like as a lesson learned, was to really do a better job of keeping the conversation of the label a part of those ongoing conversations as we evolved through the design process, instead of it being, more in DD and then kind of less of the conversation once we got to CDs. We also learned that multifamily, it's a more challenging project type to hold the commitment to the label because of the heavy VE prices, price exercises, and then just, the tendency to go for cheaper product, especially for the commodity types. So those were our lessons learned for this particular project. And we'll pass it off to Alexandra.
Thanks, Melissa. So this is a little bit of a different type of case today, but I want to talk briefly about workflow. So I imagine a lot of people here tonight are very knowledgeable about this topic and very passionate about it, but it's not possible to be on every project in your office. So one of the things that can help raise the bar for the whole office is implementing a standardized workflow that incorporates the goals of the Lighting Advocacy Letter. Before I get into the specifics about that, I think one of the things that can make implementing this workflow really successful is have a conversation in your office about why you're doing this. There can be big picture whys related to, climate change, all of these topics that we're hearing about so much in the news. And then I think there can also be some personal or firm-wide reasons for doing this. For example, we primarily design schools, and we want to be really considerate about the health impacts of the products that are going into an educational environment. I think whether you work on institutional projects or housing, you can come up with a reason why you signed a letter, and this can be really helpful as you're asking people to commit time to this. So if you go to the next slide. So we've come up with a little bit of a step-by-step workflow, and I think the first thing on here is we want to make sure that everyone at your firm knows that you've signed the Lighting Advocacy Letter, that this has been widely distributed and everyone's aware of the toolkit. We want to think about how we can develop firm standards that align with these goals. So you have, typical products that you use on every project that meet these criteria, so that once you've done the research, you don't have to sink that time in. I also want people to have trainings that everyone understands what these labels mean, so that when they're talking to reps or manufacturers, they can ask the right questions and understand the criteria they're asking for. We really want to emphasize that when we're thinking about the workflow and the project phases, goals around material transparency are most successful if they're set very early in the design phase. I want to make sure that these goals are conveyed across the whole project team so that everyone knows the part they play in this. And I think, Rico mentioned participating in WELL. I think it's a great chance for people on the lighting design side to say, these are great project goals, and here's how we're able to contribute, and that can help this goal stay in the project. We also want to make sure that we have a tracking metric. So it's not an abstract goal, but we're looking for a specific number of fixtures or a specific area. And we want to have those metrics really assigned responsibility and have dedicated check-in points, so that we don't get to the end of the project and we had this big goal, but we haven't been able to pull it all the way through. Turn it back to Melissa.
Awesome. So we will move into our last portion of the call today, where we want to open up the discussion just broadly to everyone to share what's been going on in your firms, and if there's been any change since you've signed the letter, and then what steps you're taking to implement that, and how it's gone, like if, what's going well, what's gone poorly. We tried to put ourselves out there a little bit and share our lessons learned with you guys. So we want to do the, just share with everyone openly. And I think Alex is actually even going to stop the recording so that everyone feels free to speak freely.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and open up the table.